Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I love your hair. Looks good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Mine's I was gardening in the humidity, so
Oh, but you have a garden. How nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Is it spatially similar to the one you used to have?
no. No, I used to live on acres of like wooded land.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I
And
just remember the garden with the ponds or a
yeah,
pond. Yeah.
yeah, now I have a teeny tiny little yard.
Oh, well, that is kind of yeah. Well, yeah. I guess
It's still nice.
it's a trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope today some others will join us.
Yes.
Um, but the good news is that at least two people have not sent me their questions, which may mean they will come and join us live. So yeah, let's just wait a few minutes, and if not, we'll just start with your questions. And if someone's
Great.
late, they can join me.
How
Um,
was your trip?
it was good. Yeah, it was nice. It's I skipped the hottest 2 weeks that Mexico had this year, Mexico City had this year, I think. And Austria was unusually cool for it being May. So it was really perfect. It was
Oh,
sunny but not
nice.
hot. It was perfect hiking weather. And yeah, it was nice to spend so much time outdoors and meet my friends for dog walks and things like that. Yeah.
Um, I'm drawing a blank on your your other dog's name that stayed back. How did she do?
Chai. Chai.
Chai.
Yeah. She did really well. I left her with a friend. Although he stayed in my apartment because he needed to be in the city for a bit, so it was a good opportunity. And he's not a dog person, but after just like I showed him a couple things, and I showed him what to do and how to play with her and stuff like that. And coming back, it's just so nice to see how their relationship has developed. It's truly lovely. So,
Oh,
like, she adores him now. It keeps
oh,
bringing him all the toys and
oh, that's
I
so
think it's funny.
sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. How's your Spanish coming along?
Um, Polka, polka.
Nice. Muy bien.
I'm understanding a lot more, but you know, I'm getting braver to try and say things and but
And I think people really appreciate just you making an effort. So it's like they don't care if you're saying everything correctly.
yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot of times I'm just saying one word and then trying to like
Yeah.
figure it out.
But I mean, like hands and feet and like the occasional English word.
Yeah.
It works. And any more sightings of the not so nice group of dogs?
No, the group hasn't really been around. There's been some new like free roamers and they're way more like they just are they'll keep an eye on us but keep their distance.
Oh, interesting.
And I even one I went back out by myself and kept my distance, but I showed them I had some food and then I tossed it and it didn't like I don't know. I thought maybe it was still scared of me and it just like took off, didn't take the food, and then I had to go retrieve the food because I had like tossed it into a like empty house that they went into and I couldn't just leave it in the
Yeah.
house.
Oh
But
well. I mean, I think that makes it easy as long as they keep their distance.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, and the other ones haven't been back. So
Not the group I haven't seen back.
nice. That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I like the ones that keep their distance and everyone's at peace doing their
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And they'll get used to you, so they don't like even if they don't reach the level of trust where they eat from your hand, that's fine. They will learn that you're not meaning them. You don't mean any harm. So that's usually
Yeah.
just a well, let's dive in. And if someone joins late or send me more questions, I will get to those. So I got two questions from you and two from Jana. And one of them is very similar. So I thought I'll start with your first one and then do Jana's two questions and then get to your second one because that kind of works together really well. So your first question was, do you want to ask it? I just wrote it down in case you were not there.
Um, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was more around a general question can you use leave it when they've already not necessarily put the thing in their mouth, but their nose is on it already.
Yeah. Um,
And I use the example of like she's spotted a chicken bone and before I did, like something I don't want her to have.
yeah. So I really liked how you phrased it. I'm just gonna read it here because it sounds so nice. Does leave it have to be before the dog gains access to the object? So, for example, if Kona finds a chicken bone on the street and I don't want her to pick it up and or resource guard it, and um, in the training phase, yes, you'll have to say it first because you probably use a barrier or a leash to or your hand or whatever to prevent her from reaching the object, right? And once she has reached the object, you can't do that anymore. Um, Especially if you're worried about her resource guarding it. So when you first teach it, or when I first teach it, I make sure the dog can't reach the distraction that I'm using. So if it's just like, I mean, low value kibble or something that I can cover with my hand, or I may walk past it and have the dog on a leash, and I will say my cue and use the leash to prevent them from getting there. Um, until they understand the behavior. Once they understand the behavior, I actually like having it both ways. So the way I teach you leave it, and it can be different for everyone. It depends on what you and your dog agree on it meaning. So when I teach it, it means not right now. So you can't have this right now, but you may be allowed to have it later. Um, so I teach that, for example, with a pile of kibble, and I ask the dog to leave it, and then their reinforcer is that they get to go and eat the kibble, but I may leave it them out of eating, and they come back to me, then I might mark and reinforce with something higher value, and then either move on or send them back again. So by having something higher value that comes from you and they get for leaving behind a resource that's easier to leave behind, like the chicken bone, that's hard because that's a single object, right? So in the teaching phase, as you go about that, you want to start with several low value things, and kibble is great for this, or some other boring like pasta or something like that, where you could help Kona, for example, by showing her that you have something better, luring her away from the kibble that she's eating, giving her let's say, the hot dog from your hand at a distance, and then releasing her back to the kibble. And so bit by bit, she learns that principle. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And once that's well understood, it usually, or for my dogs, it functions as Like they will drop the thing they have to come back because their expectation is, oh, maybe I'll get something better, right? Or maybe I'll get sent back. And yeah, I find that to work really well, and I'm sure it is dog dependent too, though. So some dogs may have a much harder time letting go of something they already have than others.
Yeah, and in other like trainers have been like, you have to teach a drop it and a leave it. Um, and then some are like, you can use leave it for both.
Yeah, I think there is
And I
no
just go ahead.
there's no answer, no one right answer. Whatever makes sense to you and your dog. But it just you need to be clear, right? And then consistent and not confuse the dog. As long as you make sure of that, um it's yeah, it's all good. Like I do teach both, but I could probably also just use one. That's just simply because I usually teach drop with like toys, and that's where I use drop. And I teach leave it with food and in a different context, but really there is no actually, now that I think about it, there is no good reason why I wouldn't just use one. Because both for me and the way I use them mean let go of this now or leave this now. And you may be allowed to go back to it later. The one difference is that leave it sometimes happens before the dog reaches the object, and drop only ever happens when the dog already carries something. But
Right.
actually, yeah, it's interesting to think about. Thank you for
Yeah.
raising that point. Yeah.
Well, just because in like puppy pre-K, we learn, they were very strict that like leave it meant they could never gain access to the object. But then, since then, I've progressed in, different with different trainers and everything. And like you said, I feel like I could use leave it for both.
Yeah. So if, but only if leave it means not now, but maybe later. If it
Right.
means never, then you can't use it for both because the toy is not never, right? For the toy, I just want the dog to drop it, maybe. Um, but if leave it doesn't mean never. But if your leave it meant never, then you would need a separate drop it. So I have a word that means never, but it's not leave it.
That
And that
makes
is,
sense.
yeah. So like that is just something, and like there is no dictionary that dog uses to fact check what you're teaching them, right? So it's between you and your dog whether leave it means not right now or never. Does it mean not right now for your dogs? Or does it
Yes.
mean never? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that way, I would say absolutely. Um, you technically only need one. And so now let me get to Jana's first question. Um, Jana asks, what distinguishes a leave it from a recall? Or rather, what can distinguish a leave it from a recall? Another excellent question. Similar to what distinguishes leave it from drop, right? And again, similar answer. It really depends on how you define the meaning of these terms between you and your dog. Um, so for me and my dogs, a recall means return to me, and well, if you're doing something else, stop doing what you're doing, return to me. And leave it means stop what you're doing and do anything else you want, but stop doing that thing, right? I don't always reinforce my leave it because I don't want it to be a recall cue. I just wanted to inform the dog that they can keep moving along the road, for example, but I don't want them to go into the doorway that they're sticking their head in. If you always reinforce the leave it, then it is identical with a recall cue under distractions. Then there is really no difference between them. But for me, I like being able to just tell them to leave this one thing be or not roll in like, I don't know, something disgusting. But I don't want them, like, they don't need to come back to me every single time I say that. I do, of course, reinforce it, um, just not on a continuous schedule. I will sometimes reinforce it and sometimes I won't. And a lot of the time, for example, when they're running, right? And we've been in the city cooped up in an apartment for the entire week, and then we finally got out to go hiking. And they're running ahead, and Chai finds a pile of horse poop, which she likes to roll in. And I don't always want to give her a bath. So sometimes I'll just let her, but sometimes I tell her, leave it. But if I required her to come back to me and then take food from me, that would be kind of annoying to her because all she wants to do is either roll in that horse poop or keep running. So in that situation, I won't mark after she left the horse poop. She will know that she can just keep running. And I believe that is more reinforcing in that scenario to her than if I marked and gave her something boring from my hand that she can have all week, while the running only happens, like in the forest, only happens on the weekends. Yeah. Um, Yeah, so it really, to Jana, it depends if you want to leave it on a continuous reinforcement schedule. So if you want to reinforce every single time you use it, then you could just as well use a recall cue for it. Because yeah, probably a lot of the time the reinforcer is going to come from your hand, or your marker cue is going to tell them something specific to do, while my leave it does not tell the dog anything specific to do. It just tells them you can do anything you want in the entire world. There's just this one little thing that I would rather you didn't do right now. Yeah, so it's a question of definitions. And my example with the horse poop and the doorway leads really nicely into, oh, actually, yeah, both Jana's second question and your second question, Brandy. So I'm gonna just read Jana's and then you can add yours, or I can read yours. So Jana said, can dogs understand leave it as a concept? For example, leaving food on the ground, but also refraining from other behaviors like stopping barking or not chasing prey? Or are these likely to be independent signals in a dog's mind? And yeah, would you like to add your second question?
Mine was, can I use leave it when Kona tries to, I use the word tamp other dogs. She doesn't like when other dogs get excited and she'll try and like mount them and stop their behavior. Or, you know, with our other dog Gidget, she'll like bite her skull. So before she even starts that behavior, can I use leave it?
Yeah, so I like how those two work together because they're similar, but also a little bit different. Um, so the concept of leave it, I would say they absolutely can understand that, or my dogs clearly understand it. So, and other dogs I've taught this too have also understood it, so they can, but it doesn't start out that way. So, um, I start with food on the floor with something boring and low value, or if you had a very, very foodie dog, I might start with cardboard snippets that look like food, something that's really, really boring, even lower value than the lowest value food that I can think of. And I use food until this is really, really well understood. And then I start using the same cue in different contexts. For example, when I'm walking on a leash and I'm in the street, and that just happens a lot when you live in a city. And I walk past an open door that the dog would like to go in, I will use that cue. And the first time I use it, if the dog then doesn't go into the doorway but looks up to me, I will mark and reinforce, and we will continue moving on. And if they try to go in, I will just use the leash to stop them so they can't go in after I set that cue. Or when we walk past something on the street, they want to sniff it or eat it, or depending on what it is, I will just find little opportunities in everyday life where I can use that cue while my dog is on leash. So I have control of the situation and of the reinforcer because I'm controlling the dog and their access to it. And yeah, I'll just start out like this and use it in all the situations that present themselves. And over time, like initially, I'll only do that with the dog on leash, but usually after a little, like it depends on the dog, but after a little bit, you usually start seeing the dog starting to understand that leave it means something is not available, and they start generalizing. And then I start using it off leash with low value distractions and slowly, gradually raise the difficulty level. So yeah, it can absolutely be generalized to other things. And I use it. I don't use it to stop barking. That was in Jana's question, but I do use it to let my dogs know that no, you don't get to chase this cat or this squirrel right now. For stopping barking, I use all done, but you could technically also use leave it. It really depends on how leave it is defined between you and your dog. And whether you, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. Like, I've never used it to stop barking. So if you already have a well generalized leave it around visual cues or olfactory cues, it would be really interesting to just give it a try and see if you can use it to interrupt barking. And the first time you do it, or the first few times you do it, definitely reinforce if Nacho actually stops barking. And let me know if it works. I'd be really curious. And so the mounting or taking of the scalp bite that Kona does. So here again, what for me comes to mind is like, yeah, technically, of course, you can use it if it's well generalized. But so we established, Brandy, that for you, leave it means not right now, but it may be available some other time. So here the question is, do you want these behaviors to be behaviors where you're telling your dog, not right now, but maybe later you can mount this dog, or maybe later you can bite your sister's skull? Or are those behaviors universally prohibited, right? In terms of, no, never do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, those behaviors are unacceptable.
Okay, so if they are unacceptable and your leave it does not mean never do this, then so like I would use my word that means never do this. This is unacceptable. And do you have a word like this?
No, I think I've muddled leave it.
So I mean, you could continue to keep using leave it, and it just means that you will have to use it forever because it doesn't mean never do this, right? It
Right,
just means you have to like regularly. You have to keep telling her to leave it until the day, until 100 years from now, because that's how old
right.
they will all become, of course, before they die. Um, if you wanted it to mean never do this, you would need a new cue for that, because leave it already, like, it just means something different, right?
Yeah, I think I would need another word.
I mean, like, yeah, the leave it is like it's fine, and once it's well generalized, it should work for this, right? I can use it to interrupt my dogs from playing, but they don't expect that that means you can never play again. They just mean they know it means okay, right now we're not playing anymore, but maybe we'll go back right away or tomorrow. Because that is their understanding of leave it. Yeah. So you could use it. You just can't expect Kona to know that you mean no, this is never acceptable.
Yeah, no, that's good. Now I have a better idea of when, like I would use it, in the dog park when she starts bullying a little bit, like, okay, we're done playing, but we're gonna play again.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But for the like behavior that I don't ever want her to do, like skull crushing. But I think I will have to, we'll have to do I'll have to book you for another time and brainstorm some ideas of how to help her. And, because it's
I'm
upsetting to her too when dogs act like that, but and then also how to let her know you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are things that upset us about other people, right? And yet we don't go around crushing their skulls. That's
Right.
just not. That's just not what we do.
Sometimes
Um,
we want to, but we don't.
yeah, sometimes we want to, but we are able to control ourselves because we know that is just not acceptable behavior in human society. And sometimes we can also avoid the situation, right? If we don't want to deal with certain people and we know they will be at a certain event, for example, we don't have to go. We're free to just stay home, or go somewhere else instead. Or we can go to the event, but we have to refrain from acting on our impulse to crash their skulls. Um, well, I mean, since I haven't gotten any other questions and nobody else has joined, and I was gonna stay on here for half an hour longer, if you would like, we can brainstorm now, and you can use this as a private lesson.
Yeah, it's up to you. And
I'm happy to stay on. I have made time for this.
yeah,
Let's talk a little bit more about dogs.
yeah, because I just want, like, I want to be mindful that, like, it's very upsetting to Kona. And it's not just like she's being bad and she shouldn't do that, but, you know, but I don't understand why it's so upsetting to her. But Gidget has a lot of anxiety. And so, I manage the situation. So when we get home, you know, Gidget comes out of her crate first. I get her in a state that's a little more calmed down, and then I can like Kona out. She can be excited to see us without getting upset that Gidget's excited too.
Yeah, I mean that works for this situation.
But we were hoping to not have to crate them and just be able to leave them in the bedroom when we're gone. But I'm like, well, there's no way for me to manage when she hears us coming in and gets excited that Kona doesn't attack her in the room.
Hmm.
So,
So, I mean, yeah, like the best thing would be I would love to see a video of this, and of both of their behaviors because this must have happened several times in the past, right?
oh, I mean, it would happen every time if I didn't manage it.
But yeah, you like it has happened in the past several times.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, and
so,
it's also happened where, like, if there's another dog who is too overly excited, she'll do it to that dog. And she's fine with a lot of dogs, but if there's, you know,
Yeah, like
You know, a dog that gets excited, someone else comes in the room and wants to jump up and act, she gets really upset. Mm.
yeah. The reason that I bring up that it must have happened several times is like with Gidget specifically is that I wanted to point out that clearly this behavior that Kona is showing towards Gidget is more upsetting to you than to Gidget. Because otherwise, Gidget's behavior of greeting you so excitedly that Kona jumps on her skull would have been punished, and Gidget wouldn't be doing this anymore, right?
Well, I'm not sure because what happens is like Gidget, it's like a circular thing where knowing that Kona's going to attack her makes her more anxious, which makes Kona more upset. And
Okay.
and and she will urinate sometimes if she gets scared that Kona's gonna.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I would, yeah, definitely have to see video
Yeah.
of that. Yeah. So that definitely also, yeah, you're right. So then it is not clearly on Gidget's end anyways. It's not an operant choice to greet you in a way that upsets Kona. Because if it was, she would have stopped that behavior. And we know that because if there's submissive urination in an adult dog, that usually means, yeah, if she could stop that like if she could make a choice that kept her sister from attacking her, she would, but she just can't.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I don't. Yeah, you'd have to see it because you can see she does a she does a thing with her mouth. Um, you know, where she it looks like she's trying to control her anxiety. Um,
Oh, yeah,
but you know, she'll like also do the paw things at you. It's like she wants, and you have experience with Gidget. She wants you to advocate for her,
yeah,
and so that's what I
yeah,
do to help her.
yeah.
Versus like what you're saying, have you know, like logically she should stop the behavior so Kona would.
Like, yeah, yeah. No, I was just curious about it because when you say the skull crushing, that is, I can't really picture what this looks like, right? So a part of me is like, maybe that is a play behavior, and maybe the other dog doesn't mind because I haven't seen it.
Oh,
That's
oh
why
yeah.
that's why I asked that and wanted to know a few more details.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh, you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because dogs sometimes play in ways that humans are like, what? That is terrible. You can't do that. And sometimes that's just very normal dog behavior. But
Oh,
you just like that's just because I haven't seen the behavior, the skull crushing behavior.
oh yeah.
But now, yes, now we're on the same page, because sometimes someone will tell me like, oh, I'm seeing this really aggressive behavior, for example, and I'm like, what do you mean they're playing? um,
Oh
and
yeah, I know they.
without observing in person, I just want to always make sure that we're not like running down a trail that is actually not the one we need to be on.
Right. Yeah, I mean I would definitely want you to see it because you know they do play and I see them playing and mouthing and this is definitely different.
Yeah, okay, no, you have convinced me, and like I
Well,
would
and
still.
also like Kona got kicked out of puppy or daycare camp because a dog pissed her off and because it was excited and she starts hovering and then
Yeah, yeah, so in this situation, yeah, like it really depends on how you want to approach it, right? I
yeah,
personally would teach a cue that means this is never acceptable, period, and work on generalizing this, and then we have this discussion. Maybe we need to have it around 3 different dogs in addition to Gidget. But then once it's understood, and you don't have to have the discussion again. over and over again. And she actually knows what you're saying to her. Because if you just say leave it, she doesn't know that you don't want her to ever do that. She just knows that you would rather she didn't do that right now, right?
Okay. Yeah. Because then I also think it would help her if she doesn't feel like she has to control another dog. Like that's not your job. If you don't like it, just I have her do something else, or I can take her out of this situation. But
Yeah, like she can do anything she wants. In this scenario, the only choice that she can make that is not acceptable is attack the other dog, whoever that other dog is.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as long as she doesn't do that, and you can teach her an alternative behavior to ask you, for example, to take her out. Or you can just teach her to like not do that and then see what choices she offers or what she does once she understands that this is not a socially acceptable choice for her to make. Um, yeah, and I would like ideally to find the best route for her would be getting a little more background and a little more video, maybe for. But like in general, I feel like it is okay to say communicate to our dogs that something is just off the table without the need, ideally, without the need to micromanage them in that situation. Because then once that is understood, right, once the dog actually knows, oh, that is that what it's just not like I just can't do that one thing, then they have so many options. They can do all the other things, just not that one thing. They can walk away, they can go do something else, or they can ask you for support. Um, while if you teach a single alternative behavior or manage, you are always in that position. You always kind of need to be there managing or making sure that the dog does that other behavior. So I feel like in the end, if the dog is reasonably confident and has a large behavioral repertoire, just letting them know that there's this one thing in within your repertoire that we're just not gonna do is kind of the higher life quality option for the human and the dog, because the dog has all the other options still available to them. And it's not like, oh, in this situation, I always have to do this other thing now. It's just like, no, in this situation, I still get to do all the things that I get to do in my life. There's just this one thing that I don't do because we don't do that. Like we humans teach human children that we don't go around beating people up if we don't like them or if we're upset with them. We can think about it, but we can't act on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Um, I I was just thinking like, oh, it's so hard with the things. It's not like you can, it's hard to train when the thing is something, you don't want to, I don't want to let Kona attack Gidget and then, so it's like, or another dog. So I guess I have to teach her the new, this is a never thing, and then progress it so that when she goes, when another dog is starting to act away, I can say the command before and she knows, do you know what I'm saying?
Let me reflect this back to you, and you let me know
Okay.
if I heard you right. So the challenge you see is that you don't want Gidget, you don't want Kona to attack Gidget or any other dog. So you don't want to teach her in that situation that this is unacceptable, and that makes it a little bit that makes you think you need to say the thing before she does the behavior. And you need to teach the new word in a different context.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So it's so much easier if I'm like, you can never touch this cup. And then I
Yeah.
can like never let her have access to this cup while I'm training. But like I can't.
So I would teach it in a different context. Um, but I would then still use it and hope to use it as little as possible when she does the actual behavior. Because it's not thinking about it. You can't read her mind. You don't know when she's thinking about it, right? And staring at the dog, like even, you know, like an evil stare, that's not a crime. She's allowed to do, like, I feel like that's not where the line is. She's allowed to do that. We are allowed to do that too. Sometimes you go to the park and someone is looking at you like really weird and you are uncomfortable because you don't like it. But that person is not committing a crime. And yeah, you probably just go home. But the crime is literally attacking you. It is not thinking about it and it is not looking at you. So I would teach it in a context away from, so like you could teach it in the context with the cup, for example, whatever, um, or with different things that are not other dogs. So she understands the meaning. And then you will have to be in, like, she will have to be in that situation at least once because otherwise she doesn't know what the unacceptable behavior is, right? And how far does acceptable go? And we can only um yeah, like our consequences need to be for observable behavior. We can't punish someone for thinking about something or for wanting to do something or for having the impulse because like as we know, we all have impulses. We just know that in certain situations we can't act on them, or certain impulses we can never act on if we have them. So how I would approach it is I would use a stable dog, for example, one of my dogs, and with a client, right? And allow and coach the client through this scenario with my dog. And my dog, who is going to have to tolerate this once, because my dogs are a dog trainer's dogs, and unfortunately, that is part of their job description. But yeah, ideally you wouldn't yeah, ideally you wouldn't use Gidget for it because Gidget is already feeling pretty anxious. But ideally you'd be able to enlist other dogs who you know are going to be okay. So they're not going to be upset to the degree that Gidget gets upset. Because most dogs won't submissively urinate, right? And then because I feel like you do have to explain it at where the behavior is actually happening and not in a vacuum, because unfortunately she doesn't speak human to that extent. Um, yeah, and that is also like something you have to think about. Is that something you're willing to do, right? And ideally, you'd have like one or two dogs where this happens with. And I mean, it's not like actually being on top of the other dog, right? It is, for example, let's say you probably have in that training setup that I'm imagining here, you have Kona on a leash, and she starts with her evil stare and her hovering, and that is still within the realm of socially acceptable behavior. But when she lunges, that's when you intervene, because that is the beginning of that actual behavior. So she hasn't necessarily touched the other dog in any way, shape, or form, but she is actually, if there was no leash, the lunge would like land her on top of the other dog, right? So she is she is doing the behavior. It is the leash that is stopping it and you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like you're putting another dog in harm's way, but yes, you are, of course, in that scenario putting um, spatial pressure and social pressure on the other dog. That's why um, selecting decoy dogs that can handle that is really good. And many can. You just need the access to them, or work with someone who has access to them or has those dogs. So ideally, the other dog would be like whatever, and you explain to Gidget like, no, this is exactly like what we practiced with the cat, for example. And yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if this is a fair question because you haven't seen the behavior yet, but I'm I'm wondering if you think there would be any that it would even be safe to let the situation play out where we left them in the room, knowing I might not be able to get to them before Gidget got excited and Kona went after.
I mean, I can't answer
Yeah,
it
I
because I haven't
figured.
seen it. Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, yeah. If you sent me a video, um, of like the initial part of it, like I might have an opinion, but like without that, I don't even have an opinion,
yeah,
because it really could be. I can imagine a dog who, in this specific situation, would go all out and try to kill their housemate, and I can also imagine a dog who, in the same situation, like would be all barky, growly, and take the other dog's head into their mouth, but not draw blood and just let go after a second, right? I don't know.
yeah,
In and like it's a spectrum, and probably neither extreme is going to be the case.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I can't tell you, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. I think I don't want to try it. I mean, meaning not that you're saying at all to try it, but I'm saying for me, I'm like, I want to make sure Gidget's safe. So, I, I have a ring cam and, you know, I can do it where I walk out for 5 seconds and see, and be right there.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah. Also, like with Gidget being very sensitive to this behavior, she would not be the dog I would start this explanation with. She would be, ideally, I would use other decoy dogs who are okay, who are just like thicker skinned. Um, and once Kona has understood that she can't do that to dogs in general, we would still have to see if she has generalized it to also include Gidget, because she has, of course, a different relationship with Gidget, because Gidget is
Right,
family and all the other dogs in the world are not. And in an ideal world, she would have generalized it, and that's possible. But it's also possible that she hasn't, that she wouldn't generalize it because Gidget is just her sister, and that's different from acquaintances or friends or strangers. And in that situation, you wouldn't let it play out. You would have her. Well, we would find a way to set it up. So, and I'd think about it some more. You could think about it some more, so that Kona is on a leash and cannot actually reach Gidget at all. So even if Gidget gets more anxious, and even if Gidget submissively urinates one last time, there cannot be any physical harm to her because Kona is leashed and under your control.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like I wouldn't put Gidget in that spot. That, yeah, that's not fair to her at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to work on that, that would be fun. But also, of course, I mean, it is challenging because I'm not there in person. And yeah, yeah, that would be fun if I had my dogs and you were right here.
Yeah.
Or if you could send Kona on a little vacation
Yeah.
to Mexico.
Like you're going to Mexico. Game and Shy are going to teach you the ropes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like we just drove through there. Again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up. I'll send you the recording and everyone else in the next couple of days. Thank you for joining me live, Brandy, and also for some more interesting dog talk that went beyond Leave It and was a lot of fun to have as well.
Thank you.
All right. We're in the same time zone, right? It's
Right.
6:52.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. So have a lovely rest of your evening.
You too. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like trying to not get the cold that I am clearly getting.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we'll see. Um, I was gonna do a couple things this weekend, but maybe I'll have to rest instead.
Bummer. Well, I hope
Yeah.
you get well quick.
Thank you. Well, have a lovely weekend and say hi to your husband and your girls.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.